The whole society is on a moment of transformation now. Community life will be more and more important. Having a wider network by connecting all our networks together.
How do you get these people to trust you that this is the way to go?
By sharing experiences in a not too colored way, I think, in a very straight way. Sharing stories like where it went wrong, where it went really good, where you got energy off, where you bumped into the wall, like every entrepreneur or creative is doing a lot.
Ultimately, I think people are snacking for real deep connection and deep conversations.
There should be more initiatives like podcasts like this where creatives can share stories and mostly inspire those people who maybe not have the support of their environment to do it. I don't like to be on a camera in my communication on social media and so on, so I never did it in a way, but now I will do it because I think it's really important to learn better how to tell a story, for example, to learn better how to educate other people. If everything is right on there and it's a safe space, then it can heal people. And I think that's the whole dynamic that you need.
All right, Thomas, welcome on the Firestarters podcast. You feel confident?
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Let's go.
We didn't have much time to prepare, and I kind of wanted to go with the flow, just as often, creatives do. So we're going to do some of that today, and the only preparation that I have is the starting point, and I wanted to start with a quote. I love doing that, and the one I chose was Picasso, and Picasso said, "Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up." And so I wanted to know if you remember the first time when you realized you wanted to keep that creative spark alive, when others around you seem to let it fade.
Yeah, I think it's a very natural way of living and being and sharing for me, creativity. And I think one of my, from early age on, I love to see the little creative acts in everyone around me. And I love to give it a space. In the beginning, it was more like organizing little events in school, for example. I was a voorzitter of the leerlingenraad, so a sort of president in school, for organizing events, for speaking up to the principal or the school boards to change some little things, to break things open sometimes. And my little mission was a little bit bringing more music into the school. Together with my best friend, Pieter Kolpaert, who was like a bit of the same vibe. And we even started, for example, organizing a festival, Wheat Limit, on I think 15 years old or something, or 16. Although, it was maybe not fully a story we wanted to support or something, but it was a way to program our creative friends in a festival form and in a structure. It was a way to try out, to learn how to organize. And then I did the same in my basketball club. So in a sort of other frame with my father and some friends, a rock rally, Olympia's Rockfest it was called. And I remember programming, for example, the Black Box Revelation before Humo's Rock Rally. They came there, or the Van Jets, or really inspiring rock and roll or indie artists, but then also in the end of the party, DJs. Bobby Ewing, one of my examples back then already that I was listening to, or Gert Beazar, who is now Stavros, a very nice band. And I feel like this was the starting point of giving this platform to people in communities, in a sort of a framework, I think. And it's, yeah, I didn't have a difficulty to keep the spark alive for me in the creative act, although there were a lot of moments of emptiness and sort of feeling to give up or it's so difficult to be sustainable in this creative life. But in the meantime, it's you get so much energy from it, and I think my natural way of moving on this planet is by feeding the creativity around me.
It's nice. I love that. I feel like we did make a little jump from 0 to 16 real quick, and I just want to linger a little bit longer in those younger years. Can you give us some other examples? Maybe I can switch the question around with something that I told the previous guest on the podcast, which is when I discovered that I was creative. So I was just, maybe 8 or 9 years old. And I was always, the creative one without knowing it. And I would build these little catapults with vullingen van pennen. I don't know what's in English. And I would let some glue dry on my desk in the evening when I went home. And then the next day I would come back and I had this like little plate that can scrape off from the desk. And then I would start building these things for it. And my teacher actually made up an exercise just so she can give me points for creativity.
That's amazing.
It is fucking crazy when I think back of it. I was telling this story, again to Niels when he was here on the podcast. But I find it so important because when you're really young, you know what you know. Like if you are creative, or if you're good in mathematics, or if you're good in sports, you just are. Until somebody else tells you you're different than the rest, you don't know. You just do your thing. And so maybe I'll use this example. Like I discovered, around that age that other people thought I was creative. And for me, this is part of my story. Is there something like this in your story that kind of really marked you being more creative than peers in your class or in your school?
I love the story you share. It's I think everybody has a little bit of these moments, but sometimes you don't stand still when they happen and you don't remember. One thing I remember is when my teacher of English, Jostile, he was called. He was very musical, and like apart from literature, he was also rediscovering middle age instruments and building them. And he was always very interested in what, for example, Peter and me were doing as young people. And he was the one letting me do my exam by playing a song with my guitar. And no one else of the students knew that. They all had like this maybe more difficult like formal exam, mondeling, how do you say, like by speaking an exam. And I could do that, and like these little things, it's a sort of a gift, or also a sort of giving platform to creativity, and I admire that a lot. And I think it inspired me, little moments like this.
But what is it that you did that you got that special right to do the exam that way? Because I also have another story of mine that links exactly to that. Because it goes both ways,
sharing
right?
the creativity all the time with students around me back in the days. And I think mostly in my position, it felt like students or friends or like other children were calling me a bit strange sometimes, or different, or like being flying in the air, or the chaos that people call me now, or the chaotic person sometimes. I think that was already there all the time, and it can feel like you don't know what's happening. You don't know, why am I like that? And I was quite lucky to not get stamped all the time by it, but it sort of formed me, I think, in a way of trying to prove me, and maybe in that creative spark that was always there, to do it even more, and to go really hard in it. And also in entrepreneurship, that was the thing that was my fire, I think, or still is.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I'm debating whether to tell you this story of mine, which I haven't told this to many people, but my question came from that memory that I have, and it's in art school. I was maybe 19 or 20 or something. So hogeschool, it was the Académie Royale des Beaux-Arts in Brussels.
Yeah.
And I had a class in art history. And what did we have to do? It was still like slides on like these old slides. I don't remember what they're called. And in the projector.
Dia projector.
Yeah, dia projector. So the dia projector.
One.
Yeah. And so we had to memorize 200 or 400 paintings, and we had to know the date it was painted, the style, the artist, and the context. And an exercise that the teacher gave us was during the year, we had to make a timeline and we had to see how the evolution of art went through the periods, with also the evolution in culture and also the evolution in belief, and kind of coupling, the art and the culture in history and over time.
Yeah.
And I understood that. And a couple days before the exam, as always, I was like, fuck, there's no way I can learn this. What the fuck am I going to do? And then I thought to myself, what does he really want from me, the teacher? And I thought, like, he wants me to understand how it worked, how everything, all the pieces fit together. So I went into the exam nervous as fuck, sweating, and just almost, I think I was trembling, and even in my voice. But I asked him, like, can I ask you a question? Before I had to start, describing all these images. And then I asked him, what is it that you want us to know from this course? And before he could answer, I told him, I think I know what it is. And then I told him, honestly, I don't know all the names and I don't know all the years, but I understand how it works together. So show me the first image and I will tell you how they all link with each other and how they link with the culture and the times, And surely enough, I nailed it. And I got like a 19 out of 20, which was very unusual for me. And I learned that day something about standing firm in your creativity, but there was also a sense of like, I guess like knowing your limits and really making the best of what you do know.
Yeah.
And I guess this is my answer to what you just said is like you have stages in your life and you have your creativity and you learn how to use it in different ways. And sometimes it feels very unrealistic or impossible. If you turn back to that evening before I did that exam, like there was no way if somebody told me like, hey, you're going to get 19 out of 20, there's no way I was going to believe him. That was like mission impossible.
It's nice that you break the pattern there. You make space for a little bit of confusion in a situation.
Yeah.
And then really interesting things can happen. And in creativity, that can do really unpredictable magic, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How have you continued to explore magic and creativity in the coming years? Once you started getting older and also wiser and more knowledgeable about who you are and what you want to achieve with your life.
So in those last years of high school, I was DJing, starting to DJ more and more. And with a good friend, Steven, we started the DJ project, We Are Prostitutes.
Okay, where does that come from?
It won a prize for the worst DJ name worldwide, but it comes from the idea of DJs back in the days. I speak about, 19 years ago or something. It was, is a DJ playing the music for recognizable music or not for the people? And is he a little bit like a prostitute, or is he staying close to himself and staying within a story of just bringing a palette of colors of music and storytelling, actually? And I think back then our name was very double in a way of we didn't know what we wanted to do in a way, but we love music in all kind of ways and very eclectic. And through all genres, because as he was into going to concerts all the time. We were together in the Scouts, and we got our first chance there to play, and in Denderleeuw. And I think for me it was playing in a metal band, singing in a metal band with friends from our first Café de Steamer, to an indie band, to a bit singer-songwriter. Never very successful or something, or I didn't feel very confident in it, but it was such an inspiring trial and error constantly. And I think that was a bit the start, like this dual of rock and roll and then electronic music, combining it in that project. And that guided me a bit to Ghent, because there was more opportunity than in the little city of Aalst, where our school was, or Denderleeuw, where I grew up. And in Ghent, I came just before my 18. I started going to Ghent and working in the makeup club. Makeup club was for me like this space where I wanted to be. It was a short story, but like a real electro with rock influences, and then also house music had a place there. Minimal had a place there. Like this between underground and mainstream environment, like a Charlatan also had all those years. And there, as a young kid, I could go in as working first in the toilets, and then working in the casa, a bit in the bar, and then becoming a DJ with We Are Prostitutes, because we were training in the little city before. And I think that's really formed me in a way of, yes, it's possible as a creative, as a more DJ in that kind of way, or playing music with instruments, to a more professional belief that like it's possible, it's that is sustainable, next to having this job which the whole society is asking you for, and like to be the best, and to earn the most, and like that was never my target, or it didn't feed or give me energy, an idea of having that perfect job. So yeah, I didn't know what to study. Totally not.
Did you study?
Yeah, I did. I was thinking about music, of course, but I heard stories about like, maybe you will be bored about music if you start a conservatorium, and then I did law school. Also, maybe a bit, not the pressure of my parents, but like the questioning of my surrounding, if what I was doing back then and the focus on music, if it was possible, now it's all super normal, and like everybody can be who he is and what he likes to do, or she is. But
of course you can do it, but can you earn money from it, right?
Of course, that's about believing in it. And indeed, in our society, there should be more initiatives like a podcast like this, where creatives can share stories and mostly inspire those younger people who maybe not have the support of their environment to do it, to really do it. I was lucky to get the support of my parents to do it, and they said yes to everything that I proposed, although I knew they were maybe not really like trusting that this would be safe. And it took a lot of years, I think, for them to like really feel or share with me that they support, like that they believe that I was okay, Can
you explain the dynamic in the relationship that kind of brought you from not having so much trust in this path you're going to doing it and getting the trust from your parents? Like, can you explain that dynamic? Was it something you had to push, or did it just develop normally?
I think by choosing to do this study, although maybe I was a bit like rebellious in my head, like, do I really need to do that study? I knew that I was going to learn a lot and so on, and they have given me the chance to study and live in Ghent. And that was for me the most important, like live in that city. Yeah. I really wanted to be there and to be part of a community, like building a little bit of a network, not with a target, but more with like, you can do it alone. I understand from back then already in school and society and the scouts and so on, there you learn you cannot do things alone. Yeah. You can, but it's more difficult. And then by doing the study, I think I gave them a little bit of trust, although I had always second exams.
But we're talking about as a lawyer, right?
Law school. So always second exams. A really difficult time, I think, in exam for me. Like a lot of creatives, a little bit of ADD without knowing it here and there. But it was really like... And I wanted to prove myself, but in the meantime, I didn't want to go to those classes. I was like finding creative ways to get on top of the things we had to learn or they teach us in the books. And I had good friends who were interested in going to the classes too. So In the end, I managed, but it was super hard.
You got your degree in the end also.
Yeah. I did. But I almost gave up like 100 times, I think, in my head. And my parents kept on supporting me, although I was DJing a lot. Like with We Are Prostitutes, it kicked off really well, and we were sometimes playing 4 or 5 times a week, and like really good shows, and traveling a lot, like driving the whole country. I'm not like, when I look back, it was a lot. Like it was really a lot all those years, and it was beautiful. That was my focus, you know. That was my meditation. Yeah. My weekly meditation to go for whatever, you know. And then also by feeling that in law school you really get some nice principles about society, and you learn some things, and you have nice students to work with. The master degree was much more interesting to work in little circles with your friends. And then I chose for royalties right with Hendrik van Hees. And I did my thesis about Spotify and streaming in general when it was not a thing. It was really in the beginning.
What did you learn from it?
What did I learn? That the business model is not completely working, and it's there's a lot of possibility in it for a lot of people, but it's very hard to make sustainable ecosystem. And then I put this to like the more analog way of CDs and vinyl and so on. So I was interested back then in how is it working distribution of music. And you can do it in a lot of art forms, and it's everywhere different. But in music, labels back then, they were still like having these 360 deals and supporting bands with albums and video clips and so on.
What is a 360 deal?
A 360 deal is more where a label takes percentages on everything you do, and like merchandise, gigs, also on gigs, and like a booker is doing, or on tours, on the music, on royalty rights and so on the sales also, and on the streaming. But then for the artists, they get supported financially fully, but they have to share in everything. So it's a sort of a full partnership in everything that is in the story. Mm-hmm. Which is now less and less existing, I think. And a lot of artists are their own label, or the process is the full 360 story that they manage on their own. So I think after my studies, I wanted to try and feel a little bit how is it working in a label. So I got the chance to do my internship in Sony in Brussels.
How did you fix it?
How did I fix? That's a good question.
You don't just get in there like that. You have to have some kind of accolades.
No, I really don't know, actually. How did it went? I think I just reached out, actually. And then I had to go on a talk with Michel van Buiten. He is the legal, who is also now, I don't know now exactly, but the last years he was pushing in the whole Tomorrowland and Core Story. And Michel was a legal, big fan of hip hop, and just sitting in his office and learning a little bit about agreements in a record label, licensing deals, stuff like that, and then learning from the A&Rs in Sony. I had a little bit of an idea what it was or how it's working, a record label, and also like a mainstream label, actually. Sony working on a sort of an old school way, but also moving fast in the new school way back then. Mm-hmm. And that was really interesting. But after 6 months, I could continue, and I had to start my official internship as a lawyer. Bali, it's called in Belgium. And that was one bridge too far for me. Like I knew what was going to happen then. You know, it's very difficult to combine this with a whole music life and continuing that music focus.
You were forced to make a very more clear choice as you move forward. You have to make, And so what did you choose?
Yeah, I chose to not do it, to stop. And also with the things I learned there and I felt there, like more on feelings, I started my own label.
At what age? At what age was this?
I don't know exactly, 2019, so not how old was I?
30,
like 28, something, something like that, I think. So not immediately after Sony, but I studied a little bit longer also. I studied 7 years in total, actually 6.5.
Also, you really went full on for the law thing, and you.
Yeah,
But did you do it for your parents, or did you also do it for you?
I also did it for myself, of course, and also because I wanted to prove a little bit myself, and like, winning that trust is difficult as a creative, I think, and you can do it in different ways. And
Correct. Yeah.
and I think also, I don't know, for confidence, and I was used to fail a lot in law school, so it also powered me to fight for something, and even though it looks impossible, to really go for it. And then the last year I was spending on the thesis, so it was a bit of an extra year. And then 1 year I had to do, with all the exams always piling up a little bit, I had to do that time again. But in the end, I paid my studies alone, not because my parents were saying like it's cutoff line, but because I think it was really honest to them, and because also they just gave me this free wild card to go for it in the music, and voila, that was it. And then so it's inspired me to do the whole label thing. But then the other side was from before my studies. I was also in the Snowbite story with Koen, who was also a guest in the podcast. Yeah, Koen is like family for me. And
you want to frame that a little bit for us? How that partnership evolved and how you got into it and why you got into it? Do you want to get into this?
Yeah, of course. So actually, it all comes together, the story, in a way of We Are Prostitutes, the DJ duo that we had back then. We were invited by Koen to play on the first Snow Clash in Val Thorens.
And Snow Clash is part of Snowbite.
Yeah, it's like a freestyle concept where Koen wanted to support freestylers in ski and snowboard, in a non-competitive way. So they could just come the whole week, and they give free lessons, courses to the clients, participants is a better word, on the trips, and then they do shows, like freestyle shows, and there is a community building in a way of everybody's close to each other. Those famous freestylers, they are not only doing those shows, but they are really teaching us, and I think that's community. And so that inspired me a lot, how he was doing it, and also binding or connecting the music story to the freestylers. And then in the night there were the parties where the DJs played, but the freestylers went all in on the dance floor. And I think that's the whole dynamic that you need. And the concept of those party trips back then was a lot about a full story experience for people, about having the circus artist, somebody doing the lights, the full experience, and a whole team, a crew. And then Koen spoke to me like, social media, we need to put a lot of more attention in this. Facebook was coming up, and then I felt a sort of a challenge for that, and I helped him by doing social media for Snowbite.
Why did you feel attracted to this particular social media? Because you say you studied law and you're interested in music, but then you're talking about this community aspect and the social aspect and this communication aspect, which seems like something new for you. Why did you choose to go with it?
I think by being curious.
Okay.
Yeah. I think as creatives, we all are mostly curious people, and I think that was the reason. Social media was already there a bit, but with We Are Prostitutes, it helped us a lot in the beginning by sharing some things online. And I think that for me, it was just a sort of a challenge to learn it, to understand it. And the story was there, the concept felt good. So we partnered up more and more, and then fully. So we were both organizing the Snowbite trips, from one crocus trip to the Snow Clash, and building the Snow Clash more and more and more, and then music festivals, which in the more entrepreneur side of a travel agency, suddenly for me was a connection with the music world. And that was really important for me to continue those stories of entrepreneuring and learning new things that were not, or had nothing to do with music. Because mostly it was music that only interested me, like full focus. I could sit in front of Ableton for 12, maybe more hours without any spark or to stand up and go eat something, which is not so healthy, but it's like a full deep meditation. It's the same with DJ sets and long DJ sets.
But now you're going deep because you're talking about flow.
Flow. It's full flow.
What age did you discover flow? Do you know?
By DJing, I think, but maybe much earlier. Yeah. Snowboarding at young age.
Interesting. You would call snowboarding a flow as well? Like, because what is
fully.
Can you describe in a few words what flow is?
I would say giving your mind and body the freedom to feel and to answer those feelings with actions that are like not being thought of too much, but just organically happening. Something like that. Yeah.
For me, it's very much a question about time. So I think I must have had it when I did sports earlier as well, without even realizing it. But for me, the real realization moment came only a few years ago. I started editing. First, I was a graphic designer. Then I started editing and I started really getting into these edits. And then sometimes, it would be like 1 p.m. and I would get into it. And then it seems like the next moment I look up, it's 6. And of course, I was there, all that time between 1 and 6. But it never feels like that. It just feels like it's like a drug almost, or being drunk or so. I don't know. It's the most healthy way of being high.
Exactly,
is flow. That's the way I would describe it. And I'm sure, you know what? I think from now on, I will ask more often to all the future guests how they describe flow, because you keep learning different perspectives of what it means to different people. And I think flow, you went really quick into it, but I feel like it's a really deep, because it's kind of like the root of why you do what you do, isn't it? Because on the flip side of the coin, you can have a 9-to-5 job and you can count the hours.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't,
And a lot of people find in those times then their flow, and they take the step or they go into the transformation moment to go to another life. And I think that's beautiful. And more and more this is happening. And I think now from very young age, people have the support or the confidence to just go for what they like to do. And that's beautiful. And I really want to support that in this next part of my life, more and more and more. You were talking about education before. I think just inspiring people to go immediately for it and believing that it's possible and taking all the hurts, because it's never easy. Nothing is easy, but just do it. Like Nike is saying it. I think there is a lot of truth in that.
I wasn't hoping to go this quickly into that point, because I had envisioned talking about this later in the podcast. But now that we're here, let's talk about it.
Yeah, thank you. I think by sharing experiences in positive and maybe seen by yourself or others negative happenings in a not too colored way, I think in a very straight way, sharing stories like what where it went wrong, where it went really good, where you got energy off, where you bumped into yourself, or you bumped into the wall, like every entrepreneur or creative is doing a lot by just going with the flow and trial and error. And I think by sharing these stories, but also by hearing how it's happening already, and we speak about young people now, but actually it's about young and old, because the whole society is on a moment of transformation now.
Correct.
It's going to be a lot different, I think, in the next years, and community life will be more and more important in that whole idea of getting each other all on that same on the ship of doing what you like, and finding the collaborations with all of the other people who are doing what they like, and then just making each other stronger and wiser. And I think education can be an opportunity, or that's how I see it now at my age now. When there is a lot of emptiness, I created a lot of emptiness after a lot of very beautiful, but workaholic, crazy times of combining those two lives of music and entrepreneurship, to a point where there is emptiness. I came a little bit closer to myself. I understand myself a little bit better. There's a long way to go still, but to share more with young and old and other people about my experiences, but also to master deeper and deeper the things I really want to master, because I skipped a lot of the things in my whole process by doing too much all the time.
What did you skip?
A very good example is learning the piano. I'm saying I want to learn the piano for all those years. Like I was in the studio, and I kept on saving myself by freestyling, flowing. Like I do everything in a flow, but it stays trial and error. It's not mastering something and understanding. I understand it, or I have the feeling I understand it. I have a very good musical ear, for example, and that helped me in DJing. But the next step is if you educate about music in a studio and producing and composing, I think it's nice when you understand the piano and really can play it in a very correct way and not in a do-it-yourself way. For example,
sorry to interrupt you. Do you think it's important to make a distinction between when you are young, discovering a lot of things, and then reaching a certain age and then refining? Is this where you're trying? Where are you trying to go to?
Yeah,
because both stages are important, right?
Exactly. True.
And you would have never gotten to the stage of refinement before you tried all of the other ways. Maybe it's worth digging into a little bit, especially for the young or perhaps old listener.
Exactly. And I think by sharing those a lot of details about the whole journey, but not only tell about your journey, but ask a lot of questions to them. The spark is happening, and they find their own rhythm, how to just be curious all the time and discover 1,001 things and really enjoy doing those things. Towards some people, they just, for example, when they are 16, they master something and they learn the violin in a very, very deep way and go to conservatorium and so on, or ballet, for example, and they go travel as their profession, in those regions. And I think it's for everyone different. It depends on your qualities a bit on your feelings, a bit on your surroundings. Not everybody is supported like you and me. We are very luxury at this moment. We have what we want because we're doing what we really like to do, and actually that's already a very big how do you say it,
achievement.
Achievement. One day, it's very nice to see it as an achievement and be like give yourself a lot of love for it, but in another way, sort of how do you say, like a gift that not everybody has in the whole world. I think it doesn't matter because we can share it. I had a lot of mentors, for example, in the music.
That's so important, man. I haven't had many mentors in my trajectory.
Yeah.
But what I keep finding out on this podcast is that a lot of creative people always decide to, at some stage, and we had a conversation about this earlier, make a switch between doing and teaching. Yeah, this changes everything. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah. In my personal experience now, it's by being in the storm before and like say yes to everything, literally. A little bit from a space or from a place of being a people pleaser, I would say.
Would you say that you were also insecure at your younger ages? Because you talk about, people pleasing. Is it linked with lack of confidence and insecurities? Which is, I imagine, a universal theme for people trying to make it, creative people trying to make it at a younger age. Would you say that was your case as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also by being named a lot like different or like flying in the air, like I said, or not being on this planet, or what are you actually doing, or all of these things that's feeding that, and but it's also strengthening you, and But now I come to a point that I understand that I am this people pleaser, and sometimes it's in a very nice way. Sometimes it's really hurting yourself, and or you can have this feeling like immediately after a day you made a decision, you feel bad about it. And then you don't have the confidence or the strength to come back to it and just say to the person or organization or whatever, or partner, you had this decision with 1 day earlier, to just come back to it and stand your ground and say like, look, I said yes, but actually when I thought about it better, for this and this and this reason, I must have say no yesterday, and I will say no, and that's a thing that I don't remember that I was good in, or like it was very difficult for me to just come back to decisions sometimes, and to like just speak up, just really like share what I was really feeling and thinking. Sometimes there was this shield, or how do you say this
Wall?
This wall or this protector, like that you try to be this good person and try to be perfect. I don't like to say, but to be good and to be good for people, and sometimes not too good for yourself, and just.
Is it a question about identity, like seeing yourself as you are, or seeing yourself as other people see you? And I've struggled a lot with this concept of identity as well, and I'm sure your discovery as well is like the more you do, the more you know who you are, and
exactly, yeah.
There's always this kind of, especially at a younger age, like this difficult balance of you don't even know who you are, but you still have to kind of follow your gut feeling, but then other people are giving you feedback, and often you don't even ask the right people, for feedback. So you get negative feedback, and it doesn't build on what you're supposed to be doing. And the weird thing, maybe for the both of us, is that we only discovered this at a much later age, that like, no, I have to learn to say no. And just, do you call it also like your gut feeling that you listen to, or maybe you call it your hearts of hearts? I don't know, but I'm now 37, and I'm only really now starting to really, really understand what my vibe is. Yeah.
Totally understand and feel what you...
Such a journey. And like, I know I watched so many motivational speeches and YouTube clips over the last 10 years to try to get myself to this type of level, and they always keep telling you like it's you're going up and down, and my realization now is that it takes a lot more than you ever think it does, and maybe the road to it can be shorter if you start listening to your gut feeling a little bit sooner.
Yeah, that's true,
because it kind of destroys this sense of what other people think you should be.
Yeah,
and it's like sometimes the biggest realizations are the simplest ones, aren't they?
True. Yeah, I had a lot of this feeling of that an opinion of someone about what I created, or just about what I said, or about like also speaking in group, or stepping onto the stage, or in a class, for example,
you do that? You speak?
No, I wanted to say that that was always very difficult for me, and like it just I got mostly this feeling of complete crash when it was happening, and not always, sometimes. And but I was trying to counter this with doing it, and with stepping on. For example, by saying goodbye to my high school, I played a song. Was "Skinny Love" actually by Bon Iver, and I wrote my own lyric on it, and I played it for the whole school, like all the nice principals, old school guys in the front, and then all those parents of students who are mostly like going to be lawyers, and going to be apothekers, and going to be doctors, and going to I don't want to say anything about my school, but I had a good school like the St. Joseph, and there were some creative people, but it was a smaller part than you would have in St. Lucas or something that would be maybe more my natural community or something. And I think there it was by stepping onto that stage and playing for them, that creation meant a big thing for me. It was not easy, and I was really like stressing out a lot, but I did it. And then that same teacher, Jos Tillet, for example, he made a movie of it, and then he posted it on his YouTube. And time to time, I come across this video, and that nobody knows it's there on YouTube. And it's like my costume, I'm playing that song, and those moments are there. It was a bit more easy for me because it was music, but like also in speaking for a class, it's just a difficult thing. But by doing it, you know, you understand it better. You know that it will be okay, whatever happens, and so on and so on. But it's not easy, and I think those little things, by getting older or growing older, you understand better why it's happening sometimes, and you try to work on it, and or maybe do the things less that don't feed you or give you a comfortable feeling, or just do the opposite and out of the go out of control and just try it. Like for example, now I will start recording myself, partly for education, partly for not like the how do you say, like I will not try to seek for sensation or within the music industry before a camera, but I don't like to be on a camera in my communication on social media and so on. So I never did it in a way, but now I will do it because I think it's really important to learn better how to tell a story, for example, to learn better how to educate other people. And if I don't master that a little bit more, then the story will not like come to them. It will not like, it will be more difficult to connect or to bring the message and to also hear the message, you know. Learning to ask questions to people instead of preaching your own stories or words all the time, for example, is something that I learned a little bit more in conversations with people, with friends, with family. And I was not so good in that, also maybe a bit because of ADD and like in the middle of their story starting to talk and because I didn't want to forget what I was going to share with them. So I just wanted to spit it out immediately, but it's not giving space to the other person to tell the story, you know, to listen also to what they are saying or feeling what they are saying. You just skip the whole.
Yeah, dude, I struggle with the same shit, and that's why I have my iPad here. I honestly don't use it so much. I really want to, because there's a lot of things you said I wanted to reply, and so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna buy a new iPad and I'm gonna jot down notes about what you're saying, because I don't want to interrupt you, and I've also learned to listen. But I don't want to put stamps on me. Maybe I have ADD as well. I don't know, but I also want to pick in at points that I know that I can say something and then move the conversation along, because I'm afraid that if you stop at a different point that I want to talk about, I will have nothing to reply, you know? So then you can get back to your notes. And anyways, long story short, like part of learning how to teach or to communicate with people is learning to listen first.
Exactly, yeah.
And wow, I only fucking realized this a couple years ago or something. Like, shame on me, you know. But the podcast has helped me. And you said, you know, start by doing. So I started doing it. My first podcast. I mean, I also now what I'm doing with this audio system is, you can't hear it, but you're on my right ear and I am on my left ear. So there's two different audio tracks. And so if I were to talk over you, which I do, which is not good, then I can, if you're saying something important, I can cut it out. And because I have to cut it out, then I know that probably next time that I do a podcast, I shouldn't do it. And like this, I don't have to cut it out. Even though I have the technical capacities to do it now, I probably shouldn't. So I learn. Like, and I even got feedback on on YouTube about some random dude that watched the video, and he's like, "Well, you should probably try to talk a little bit less over what the other person is saying, because you're just trying to spit out what you want to say, and that's not what a conversation is about. That's not what teaching is about, right? Like, if a student asks a question and you just tell him like, no, that's wrong, it's like this, like the student is going to be like, what the fuck? You know, you want to inspire and you want them to feel heard. And I feel like you're making a really good point in this. And it's taken me 37 years to learn about this. Man.
Same. And what I also think is a bit surprising for me is that only now it's actually my girlfriend who is like pointing me on these things more in the last past months, and it takes only sometimes these little like people in your life that really straight up share with you like, look, this is happening, and I don't think you should think or think about this or just work on this, and you can grow in this. And like if nobody in your environment, like of course a lot of people in my environment, teachers or my parents, they want to help you, but you feel it as critique as a very young adult.
But is it a question about trust here? Because it's been itching me to ask you this, because when you trust someone and somebody gives you a little critique or a little correction, you can see it as two ways. You can say it as they're breaking you down or they're building you up. And, you know, one thing that's really important is like, don't take advice from someone that is, you know, outside of your inner circle.
Yeah.
Because you don't really even care about their advice, but vice versa. If someone who is in your inner circle, I mean, they're in your inner circle for a certain reason, right? So you trust them. And if they tell you something, it's because they have a different perspective on things and maybe they can help you. And you're touching up on something really important here is like, if you have an inner circle that you really truly value and you don't listen to their advice, then what does it mean, this inner circle? And vice versa. If you do understand it and you do accept it, you can truly grow. I think that's where you were going to before I interrupted you with my ADD.
It's then by therapy sessions and so on, you dive into it, and I think everybody should have a therapist. I think that's a general idea in our society, especially for example in Belgium, that it's normal now, or it's more normal to speak with a therapist and to go on a little conversation, or within your relationship, or just solo, and that's wonderful, because that would help me a lot, I think, in those younger years.
Yeah.
To just when it would be normal at home or normal in my environment to speak about emotions, to share about difficult things, to like not everybody is ready to do it at a young age, and I think that's really important. So that's maybe also a little bit a part of that can be interesting in education and in sharing experiences, and part of well-being.
You started something in that area of helping people. We were talking about it just a little bit earlier in preparing for the podcast.
2 years ago in ADE, Amsterdam Dance Event, we started a first tryout of the Wellbeing Club, which is actually a combination of the music world and the well-being, where you have a lot of experts who master, for example, yoga or breathwork, cold bathing or ecstatic dance. And then you have musicians within our community or our world who sometimes they don't have this experience to bring their music into well-being activities. And of course, the dance floor at its own is already a well-being activity, and it's a natural flow. And if everything is right on there and it's a safe space, then it can heal people like fully. That's really important. So bringing those two worlds together by bringing live music with experts, and by not preparing mostly those things, or like just going on with the flow within those sessions, it's really magical to see what happens. And we tried that out first in ADE, which was with not too many people, participants, but very good to see how the team was working and this little experiments of putting people together. And then we did it with Stad Oostende last year. We had a lot of participants in the Grote Post, very nice cultural center. And it was a big success, and we were very inspired by the talks, by professors about well-being, but also linked to the music world a little bit. And then by just actually inspiring nightlife, and not nightlife only, just like creatives in general, to work on their well-being and to find the balance, a balance in life, because it's not always like very, very easy in that nightlife or just in general in the creative industry, I would say.
We're talking about close circles, like parents and best friends, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, but you are just an external organization. How do you get these younger people to trust you that this is the way to go?
It's a good question. I think by not too many preaching like all the ways to do things and to think and to experiment, but more to create a sort of safe frame where, by in a conversation, for example, by asking questions, just inspire. I think they should find a way to the mentors and to older people, for example, or sometimes not so old people who can share something about an experience that they had for the last 2 years or something. It doesn't have to be a lifetime for a mentor, but by just sharing that and somehow in a community, they will find a way to someone in the community to get this mentorship or to ask their questions. And I think it can go in a very organic way that this whole energy level, I think, but I still have to experience how, like I was doing this, I think in the things I could share knowledge or experience, I already did this a lot within the community or family of the label of Wazinwell Records and also within our festival Curfew House Festival. I think I sort of unorganized, unstructured. I was giving a lot of advice to a lot of people in a family, but also taking this or getting and accepting to receive a lot of advice of others. Also younger people, you can learn a lot from the young guns in this society. Generation Z, they sometimes the old school generation is shooting them a lot because of this and this, but we can learn about how they revolutionize in some ways and how they also be more healthy sometimes in their lifestyles nowadays than we are.
If you had to describe the essence of community, what would you say in a few words?
It's a very good question. I would say an ecosystem where everybody has a place that is close to your inner soul or your energy level or something that is close to what you really like to do. And that sort of you find out from the whole community who is good in what and what can sustain which other thing can sustain the whole group. Yeah, that's it. And the whole family. For example, the whole community around Wazinwell, I see it more as how I did it in reality was just a WhatsApp group, and then people that I cross in the whole journey, I add them to the WhatsApp group and I present them or more in a way on an event. For example, somebody is suddenly joining the team in an organization of a festival, and then adding them to a group. So it's more like a communication and a network channel. Yeah. Is that fully a community? I don't think so, because in a full community, everybody would bring something to the table in a balanced way. Some can do it maybe in one moment, others 1 year later, and all of these things are connected in a sort of way that suddenly it can feel like a synchronization moment. But in the end, I think it's the word community is quickly used for something, and maybe not always right to use, but I see it more as a lot of people working together and supporting each other from a place of believing in something, in being strong together and being safe together, and just collab all the time. And
So it's about to say having the same belief.
yeah,
And here comes a deeper question. Belief in Europe, you had religions and Catholicism and all these different parts of the world have their own belief systems. But yet it seems like we're less Catholic. We're not going to so much to church anymore. So it's kind of this religion part of belief is falling away. And it's somebody who told me this, and it really hit me. Like, because we lost that, we're actually now trying to, this word community and what we're talking about is coming more and more, but it's always more in a sort of niche form. You got the motorcycle guys, you got the hockey people, you got the tech guys, you got the music people, and they all form these little communities because everybody needs to believe into something. And the question that I ask myself is, are these little communities that we're talking about and that are starting to form a byproduct of loss of religion in Europe?
yeah, it can be. I never thought about it like that.
Because people need to believe into something, right? That like you want to wake up with a reason to wake up, right? That's the most basic thing, because otherwise, why do you wake up, right? So I ask myself if this is a byproduct of history, European history.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting. I think it can be, and also by coming into a sort of group suddenly where you feel like, oh, there are others thinking like me who are open-minded, for example, or who like to travel, or who don't like to walk into the same structure as everyone in society, and things like that can be like going to the church, maybe a sort of a safe space where you find like-minded people in general. Yeah, and then strengthening each other on difficult moments, that it's possible to like just really go for what you want to go for. And and I think it's that's what I said about timing. It will always in a community be different people who pop up with initiative or with support or with in different moments, and it will not like be like, hey, now we're going to do this, because then it's a bit of a different story, I think. Less natural and then more like making money focused or something.
I was just about to ask you that question, because you were talking about the different concepts or understandings around community, and that the word is quickly used. So, for example, if you buy ketchup, and then on the back it says like, join our community on Facebook, and you're like, why would I be in the ketchup community, And so like brands are now on board with this idea, but it doesn't seem like they fully understand it.
Yeah, and that's a less natural way, I think. And it depends where it comes from. Is it from a mission, or everybody in a community can land in there by a different happening or a different mission? Like the mission doesn't have to be aligned or something, or it shouldn't be like, hey, we're all going to make this, everybody in the world eat this ketchup that we didn't create and that we didn't, but maybe we all like the ketchup, so that can be a bit different then. But yeah, in a good world, that ketchup will change then constantly, because the community will make it different and maybe better and like criticize it and.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I like that. So that's interesting. Like if brands really are doing communities, then the brand should change according to how the community is changing as a whole. I like that. And also the product, perhaps, maybe we'll get yellow ketchup soon.
Yeah.
Depending on
I
what
guess
the people
we already
say.
had that in the past, but or green ketchup.
Did we? I don't even eat ketchup, so for me it's all new.
Yeah. No, it's a very. I really have to dive deeper also into these dynamics. I had a conversation about it with Laurens Polvliet. It's a good friend of me who helped different festivals with the community work. So just to make the crew work better together, to understand the dynamics, just like you do with a company. It's just the same story, of course. And he was doing this or is doing this with Waking Life, for example, from the start. He's doing this with Garbage Festival in Poland and the whole Kater team. And yeah, he's doing this with companies. And he was asking me, I don't know, like 1.5 years ago or something, he was asking me like, what is actually like what are the basic fundamentals of your community or your family or like
the ethos?
Yeah, what is it? You know, what are the principles? Why are people part of it? Who's doing what? Is the trust strong enough in the basement? You know, like, or is it based on something else? And that's a really good question, and I don't have the answers, all of it. And sometimes I really question, what am I doing? Like, why do I feed this whole family idea all the time? For example, where is it coming from?
Yeah.
And I think it's partly from a place of really wanting to give this platform my whole life to people, like of having a wider network by connecting all our networks together, but also by skipping some steps sometimes for people and collaboration. I think that's the most important. But it's really important to, maybe also a bit of people pleasing sometimes, because when family asks you something, it's very hard to say no. Yeah, I think I don't have the answers, but more and more I understand the dynamics.
I like the fact that you said that, you know, sometimes you want to skip steps by being in a community. And let's give a stupid example. And it's the same when I went to India. So like, you know, people don't have a lot of money and they rely on each other, you know, to get shit done. So like one dude on the whole block has a lawnmower, and one dude has a microwave, and one dude or girl has a toaster, you know, and they all share. And I think that's the thing about skipping steps. You know, like if you're and the reason why communities, I think, form is because you're all in the same boat and each bring their little part to the table, and the collective together is stronger than the single, because if you don't have the group, then you need to buy the toaster, you need to buy the lawnmower, you need to buy everything separately.
And especially I think in moments where we get big resets, for example, I don't know, war, if there is war coming, the next economic crisis, things like that. I think it's nice to be in a community then, and not only on your own, and on those moments where recession or where like everything is built up again.
Yeah,
I think a lot of new community or like communities will be connected all over the world more and more. And yeah, I think music festivals who work in that kind of community feeded way, they will be an important factor or they are an important factor in preparing people for that kind of open-minded, more sustainable thinking.
So for you, it's the future.
Yeah, of course. I think for everyone. And but what it is and how we do it our best, I think we still all have to learn a lot about that.
Would you say that like honesty and transparency are two of the main building blocks of this community idea?
Yeah, and trust. Yeah.
I missed one. Sorry.
Yeah,
definitely trust. Yeah, those are the things.
But how to get there, and I think everybody needs guides in that process. And that's like I said, Lawrence, for example, he's trained in this, and he's doing this as a community coach, and it can help a lot in organizations. In our booking agency, we also had a session with Lawrence, with the whole team where a few young people are involved, like really young people, 18 years, 20, 25 years old, and everybody motivated. But it starts with getting to know all of each other in a new start in a company, for example, and by getting a little bit the principles of how a good dynamic or a good cooperation can work, and that it starts with trust. Because if the trust is not there, there comes a point where you just have a conflict, and then another conflict, and then people start defending themselves, and then you get stuck. And
aren't you like kind of describing like this kind of pyramid structure of companies where we're really desperately trying to get rid of, like what's the difference between a boss and a leader? A boss will tell you what to do and doesn't disregards what you think or how you feel. Or trust is, the only trust you in the old system is like, you need to trust that you're going to get paid at the end of the month. And that's what they played on, but it's not enough anymore, is it?
No, it's totally not. I think in travel base, the whole team was is very young, and by, for example, choosing your own holiday days completely free, I think that's a good way of giving or creating trust. And then by having a coach and a mentor within the company, but also give the mentor itself another coach. Like everybody needs a coach in the end, young or old, it doesn't matter. Everybody needs a coach and reflection moments, feedback, and I think criticizing each other is actually very good, but in mostly in a constructive way, of course. But it can, it's better to have this kind of straight communication in our transparent, open connection possibility in a group or then you don't have it. But it's easier said than done. And I think we Belgians we are very good in being very modest, very small, like
keeping things inside,
protecting like maybe also sometimes having a little bit of this shield of we do it good and we are very strong and so on, and we are very smart and so on. But in the end, I feel by traveling a lot and by working internationally with a lot of people that actually we are also a bit locked up sometimes, and that we are kept being small sometimes. And I feel a little bit activated right now, and I think it's because of it. It's not the nicest feeling to know that you're like, even though I had the feeling that I broke open a lot in my life as a creative, still I feel I was locked up a little bit all those years.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you're moving now to Amsterdam, and I keep hearing over and over and over that in a lot of ways in entrepreneurship, we are behind the Dutch because they have a skill that we lack, which is directness. Of course, the coin has two sides. You can be too direct and you can overshare. But whenever I go to Holland, I always see these like concepts that I think like, whoa, like you go to Amsterdam, you have like floating hot tubs. Like, whoa, amazing, and I keep hearing over and over again that even compared to Holland, Belgium is behind. So if you say that we're being kept small, yeah, of course, it's not always dependent on the outside world, because ultimately you decide yourself what you want to do and what you want to believe in and how you want to evolve and inspire, I guess. But I agree with you. Like, if you have to look at the position of our country, or even our half of the country, we are a little bit maybe closed-minded. And I also travel a lot, and I also see so many different cultures, and it just makes you ask different questions.
Yeah, that's it. And again, we have the luck to be able to travel and so on.
Yes.
So it's I think it's good to share these feelings and these things you learn around the world to people who can't do that, for example. And but I think it's also a bit of a cliche, the whole thing about Dutch people. And
Sure.
but what is sure, and what I feel already now by being there a little bit, we just moved actually 2 days ago, but I was living there with her, with my girlfriend already for a little while. And I was visiting Amsterdam a lot in the last years because I love the energy and I love the friendliness, you know, it's like New York. I was not there, but I keep on hearing from a lot of friends and people that they love the friendliness of New Yorkers and the open mindedness, and that's what I feel in Amsterdam. And my girlfriend is from the States, and she feels really at home now in Amsterdam.
Interesting.
And it's a sort of a proof for me, like it's maybe not a. It feels like a proof for me for the Amsterdam Dutch openness is close to my inner child, or my true self. I think and it inspires me. It keeps on breaking me open to grow and to I want to be there now, and I'm really happy that she's taking me there. And voila, yeah.
Interesting. I kind of want to create a little bit more of an insight about who you are, and I feel like we maybe have missed just a few like pillars or foundations. Can you just like in real quick make like a list of all the projects you've been involved in from A to Z, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. All of them is difficult, I think, but I will forget. But it's not important about name dropping and stuff. But and the biggest milestones, I think, are organizing. So this first rock fest or rock rally to DJ project. We Are Prostitutes. Then in Ghent, starting to organize parties. A lot of different concepts. Started in Decadence, for example, with Ezekiel 2517. We organized with We Are Prostitutes, was a sort of a student night with Studio Brussel in Overpoort to bring a bit more quality in eclectic music towards going in a Curfew, a house festival, from a more mainstream 10 years project in the music to a more underground project as WLC, which I play now as an alter ego, and I think the house music festival Curfew was two good friends, Danny and Laudi, who started Curfew, giving Lisa, Monali, and me the chance to take that transition from a mainstream to an underground project in music, and to say like, here, with all confidence, you guys can do it like you do in an after hours or at home. Here, play at Curfew. So we got the chance to do that, and then I got more involved into that project. And suddenly enough, we lost our friend Danny 2 years ago now. So Laudi and me continued the festival. Now it's our 10th edition, 10th anniversary of a house music festival, which is very important for me to keep alive that community. And because in Belgium it's not like wildly supported, I would say, in these years. Before it was more and more, but in the end, house music will always be there, and we are organizing in Ghent. That's one thing. Then the whole travel agency side. So the entrepreneurship was a Snowbite with Koen, and then going into Travel Base after a whole journey, and then working together with Charles and Simon, who were actually all those years our concurrents or conculegas of Route du Soleil.
Right. Yeah. Koen talked about this briefly. Yeah.
And then the funny part is that I was the first DJ on the first Route du Soleil, so the music story was there also connected. And then I kept on going on Route du Soleil, but actually within the Snowbite, it was our conculega. Or it's a bit of a difficult thing, those. But in the end, you see, we worked together, and we became all partners in Travel Base, and then. Yeah, beautiful story. A lot of music festivals, Journey of Sound, Sneeuwstorm music festival in the mountains, and so on. So a lot of concepts combining music and travel. And then a transition moment again was a very important one for me. It was in 2021, I think, in COVID. I went to Mexico for 6 months, my first sabbatical in my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah, I never stopped like the train of combining 50% entrepreneurship with those travel agencies and music. So I never stopped the train, and then I did it. And then there I really felt like, okay, you have to take a break. What do you really like? And immediately there I was going into that community, you know, in Puerto Escondido, organizing little events and then a little bit bigger events, and then people coming in there that were connected in the Europe music scene. And it all felt very natural. So there didn't, on the music side, there didn't change anything. The leaving behind the travel agency side felt a bit like a relief for me, because I learned so much in there, and it's also a wonderful community, but it went further and further from what I really like to do, and felt less new or something. And then I just decided to stop. But of course, as for like, those decisions are really difficult for me to make as a people pleaser. I think I also had the respect to you know, or the whole collaboration and partnership in travel base to end in a nice way, and to still organize a few concepts, like the family concepts, for example, in ski were part of that. And by giving my last push, also with Stadswandelingen, for example, in Belgium. And then I felt very free or something, and I pushed more energy into the label, more energy into the festivals, invest a little bit in the festival I really believe in, like Waking Life, which is for me something I was always there as a sort of a little holiday in the summer, because my friends were organizing it from the start, and it felt so close to who I am, to what I like, to my creative process, this environment of festival. And so that's one thing I could support a little bit more. And then the label. And I think now I feel like organizing the events, I want to go to organizing less, but doing it better and better and more sustainable, and like focusing, for example, on keeping curfew alive, but more than alive. Like having a good team. We have a good team. A few years ago, it was more like, you know, a survival modus, but still from a good mission and love for house music. But now it's more getting into a sort of flow, and then focusing on that, and on what I really want to do is the education part now. So I'm a bit scared, but also really excited to jump into this new. Yeah, it feels a bit empty now, and that's really like...
You're talking about a switch that you're making, or a few different switches in your career, but every time you make the switch, of course you're a little bit afraid because you don't know what's coming to you. But yet you still push on, and I really love this message. And if anyone who is thinking about it, know that there's other people out there who are, you know, feeling the same. And perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about these insecurities you feel, but how you think you're going to get through them. Because, of course, by now you have a little bit of experience that you can rely on. So you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, but you know that it's a good tunnel to be in, right?
Yeah, I think it's from going to a lot of things, combining a lot of things, and doing everything a little bit, and nothing like really, really, really good or master curiosity. Going to a place of still curiosity, but with a new start, and really like I said, stepping in front of a camera, for example, and bring a message, and also dive deeper into those things you really want to master, and also create a sort of product out of this. And a product that you can share, you can sell, but still feels very close to your personal experiences, and it's not just a thing that people can find everywhere on the net or in the supermarket. When I would be able to get to a point where I feel confident about a product that I created, that will be a first like milestone. I think that. Like I created so many products in the past already, but a product that is closer to what I really can teach something to someone, or that is feeding other people to do the same and to jump into the adventure. That would be a really nice first step, I think. And yeah, that's it. And keep on having my meditations. That's also really important. Like my meditation as DJ, not with a full focus by saying yes to everything, like I said before.
Yeah.
Being more selective for the first time in all those years. I already am trying to adapt it now. It's a less filled agenda. Like it was never so empty actually for my summer, and normally it would really giving me anxious feelings, like what's happening. And I had a few difficult summers like that, for example. But now it gives me a really good feeling, like a feeling of freedom, a feeling of saying no is feeding like the energy to put into new things.
Saying yes to other things. Beautiful.
That's it. Yeah, to things that maybe can be a nice continuation of those other things, and having a focus on day experiences, daytime experiences on the dance floor. I really wanna have. I think it's really important. Maybe not for everyone, but for me right now.
Yeah.
And because I saw a lot in the nightlife, and it can feed you with a lot of energy, but it can also suck a lot of things and your healthiness. And I think it's I'm here to share those experiences with people who want to share their experiences and then make each other healthier or better or wiser or whatever it is. But I think that's the next step. Yeah.
I love where you're going. I can't wait to see what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I have a typical question that I always ask at the end of the podcast. So my question is a 2-part question. What was your dream when you were a kid? And what is your dream now?
It's a good question. My dream as a kid, as a young kid, or in general?
You can choose. Like obviously, it's something that you feel like it's whatever you're gonna say is something that you felt strongly.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what age, but what before you got older and wiser, like now you have your dream now is surely different. Yeah. Although I have to say that my previous guest at the podcast had the same dream when she was a kid than now. Oh, yeah. She was the first one, and I keep getting surprised by what people tell me.
Yeah, I think I had a lot of dreams when I was younger, and like very changing in time. Like one moment it was becoming a good basketball player, because I had quite some years in a basketball team, and then it went to being the Brian May, or the guitarist player who is playing the best solos. But I was actually, all of those dreams were all constantly changing, and that's something that that is now different. I think my dream is more, there's no targets anymore. I think sometimes I was living and acting in more in a sort of target of proving that, for example, it's possible to be in the music industry self-sustainable and to build a career in it, and to only do that and stuff like that. And then now it's more like, I don't know, having a family, for example, is a sort of a dream that stays with me now, that is not changing or something. And that's a really important dream. And then next to this other music family, having a very close family, building a village again, but then maybe even closer to myself, is something that is a dream, I would say. And for the rest, keep on doing what I'm doing now, and doing less but better and deeper. Yeah.
Lovely.
That's it. What is your dream?
What is my dream?
Yeah.
This is my dream.
This is your dream.
This is my dream.
Living your dream.
But if you ask me what my why is, then I would say the reason why I'm doing it is because I genuinely think that the main platforms in this world that are meant to communicate news to people are not positive platforms. Yeah. And I want to bring change in that, and I want to connect people in a positive way. And I've chosen the niche of creative entrepreneurs, but in a larger agenda, of course, connect as many as you can. So that is my big dream. That is what I want to leave behind. That's how I want people to remember me. But the story is really not about me. It's about all of us, and we're living in some very challenging times that are challenging our sense of reality, our sense of openness, our sense of trust, with the new technologies coming out. It's all very confusing. And what we really need is
Connection.
and people being people, and 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 with this podcast, we bring back these conversations. Like, we're just having a conversation tonight. But when does a human, or when do people take the time to have these long conversations about the important things of life anymore? So, and my big inspiration, the book is standing there, The Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. He has millions of followers. Followers sound stupid, but he has a lot of millions of people who are really interested in the stories that are being told on this podcast. And these stories are between, 1.5 to 2.5 hours. And everyone keeps preaching that, we need short form content. And maybe it's true for the platforms on which the short form content is used. But ultimately, I think people are snacking for real deep connection and deep conversations, and I want to be part of that world.
Very nice. Thank you to do that.
Thomas, I want to thank you so much for coming here, because you came from far. You came all the way from Amsterdam. I really appreciate it. Thank you for trusting in this platform. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being you, and to be part of your community.
Thanks for the invitation, and also to start with a sort of a open, empty book, because we didn't know a lot about each other.
Yeah.
And we didn't prepare, and I think that's we could have a few calls to talk about everything, but it was just on flowing, and I really support or I really love being in that kind of flow. It's not the most comfortable sometimes, but it's the most interesting.
Yeah.
And thanks.
Cheers, buddy. Appreciate it.